This museum is located within the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and it was established in 1995. This museum, as you can see, is very interesting because it has rocks, minerals, meteorites and fossils on this side. Let's talk a little bit about minerals in Namibia. We have a lot of different minerals in Namibia. Mining, after all, is the first GDP generator in Namibia. So just to give you an example, this is an amethyst from an area called Sarusas, and it is very unique as it has very beautiful crystals, purple crystals. And this is just a purple quartz, and there's chemistry involved in forming these quartz crystals. So normally there is a hole in a rock with liquids inside, and these liquids precipitate, forming these lovely crystals. The slower this precipitation, the bigger your crystals. The color of minerals can tell you a lot of what is inside. And the shapes of minerals are quite varied. Some of them are round, some of them look like crystals or stalactites, and some of them look like little fibers. For example, this particular mineral is called malachite, and as you can see, it is very green and it looks almost like moss, which is a fine plant. But this is a mineral, and the green color actually tells us that there is copper in this rock. We continue talking about minerals, and earlier you saw the beautiful purple quartz crystals, which are called amethyst, and quartz can come in many different colors. Another color is this beautiful pink. And can you guess what the name of this quartz is? It's actually called rose quartz because of the color, and you can see it's a nice pink like a rose. Look at this nice mineral. This one is very famous from Namibia. This particular one, the green one here, is called dioptase. It's also rich in copper, and this one comes all the way from the Tsumeb mine. I would like to give you another example of a very beautiful mineral, and this is a real mineral. This is not paint. I didn't put paint on this rock. It's called Chatukait, and it is from the Kaoko land. And it comes together with some other minerals as well. Can you guess what this mineral is? It's something that you put in your food every day. It's actually salt. And this particular salt comes from our coastline. So Namibia's coastline has a lot of salt, and we actually mine it there. Did you guys also know that Namibia is world famous for a lot of gemstones, different types of gemstones? One very nice example is this black tourmaline. Can you see the faces of the crystals? And can you see how black the crystals are? These are some of the biggest tourmalines that you can get in the world. These beautiful rocks here, which might not be as beautiful to some people, are meteorites. They are also known as shooting stars, and they fall from the sky at night. So you can see them best at night, because they also have a tail of fire. Now, in terms of meteorites, you get three different types. You get iron meteorites, which are exactly these type of meteorites. They are full of iron, so they're also really heavy, and they are also magnetic. If I had a magnet here now, it would stick to this rock. You also get stony meteorites, and you get a mixture of stony iron meteorites. Now, Namibia is world famous for meteorites. We've got two records. We've got the largest meteorite in the world, called the Harbour Meteorite, which is 60 tons, and it is located near the town of Grootfontein. And then you have these meteorites, which form part of the largest meteorite shower in the world, called the Gibeon Meteorite Shower. When was the first diamond discovered in Namibia? It was actually discovered in 1908. And it was discovered just south of the harbour town called Luderitz. After the discovery of the first diamond in Namibia, there was a diamond rush to the south of the country. And a lot of small towns sprang up in the south. And these are just some of the items from these small towns that were found. So in the beginning, people could just pick diamonds off of the sands, the dune sands. And later, they needed to find out where the diamonds came from. So they employed some geologists to figure out where the diamonds came from. And they discovered that the diamonds come from South Africa all the way down the Vaal River into the Orange River and into our ocean called the Atlantic Ocean. And through the movement of the Atlantic Ocean and the wind pushing it northward, it actually gets blown onto the land. And that's how we get diamonds. So the first person that found this first diamond in Namibia was called Zacharias Lewala. And before he worked in Namibia, he used to work for the Kimberley diamond mine in South Africa. So he had a little idea of what diamonds looked like. The first time that they mined diamonds, they used these very rough, what we call trommel sieves, just shoveling a lot of sand into these sieves and turning them manually. And this is just an indication of how people were able to pick up diamonds directly on top of the sand right in the beginning. Namibia is very well known for diamonds, and we make a lot of money from selling diamonds. We mine diamonds out of the ocean, we mine it from the land next to the Orange River, and then what do we do with diamonds at the end of the day? We are going to cut them. We're going to cut them into a nice shape so that this shape can be put into jewelry. And this particular shape is called a brilliant cut. And as you can see, it takes 9 stages to get to this final cut. So diamonds of Namibia, even though they are quite small, they are some of the best quality diamonds because they've traveled more than 1,000 kilometers before we finally mined them out of the ocean or from the land or from the river. So I've just shown you how diamonds are cut, but diamonds don't only have to be cut in that one particular shape that you saw earlier. They can also be cut in all these different shapes: pear cut, oval cut, triangle cut, any cut that you actually want. Deb Marine is the company that mines diamonds offshore. That means it mines diamonds from the sea bottom. And how do they do that? They make use of diamond mining vessels, ships in other words. And this particular ship is called Mafuta, and it is connected by a long pipe, and you can imagine how many meters it has to go down, all the way to this robotic little machine down there that mines the sea bottom in a grid-like fashion. And then all the diamonds and the sediments are sucked up here, and all of this is automatic. There are hardly any people on this vessel. So everything gets sorted up here until the final stage when you are only having a couple of hands full of diamonds, where now the people are looking at the quality of the diamond. So why are we actually mining? Why do we mine? We want something out of the rocks. The rocks are called ores, and inside the ores there is something that we actually want. And I'm going to give you a few examples of what we're going to do with some of the stuff that's inside the rocks. For example, in this particular rock, you'll be able to get zinc, which is a type of metal. And what are we going to do with zinc? One good example of the use of zinc is in the automobile industry. Can you see this car? In order to make one single car like this, you need 1,500 kilograms of raw material. That includes all the different metals: zinc, copper, iron, lead, and many more. So zinc, for example, is used to make the tank or even the springs of the car. Quartz or sand can be used to make the windows of the car. Iron is used to make the steel of the engine, for example. And many more. Lead is also another one. Once again, we are looking at oil and gas. Why do we want oil and gas? What are we going to do with oil and gas in our lives? We need oil and gas for energy, right? To power our country, to get electricity. And I want to give you an example of what gas does when it comes to the surface. So gas is found deep inside the ocean, and when they look for gas, they use this drill bit to drill deep into the ocean floor. And then in the southwest of Namibia, in the ocean, we have something called the Kudu Gas Field. And when they puncture the surface of the ground inside the ocean, this gas comes out. But because the pressure changes, you suddenly get a liquid. And this is what is in this bottle. So how much of this natural gas do we actually have? I want to give you an idea. We have 3 trillion cubic feet of gas. And to give you an idea how much that is, you just look at this square. And if all these sides were 4.4 kilometers, you would have 4.4 times 3 cubic kilometers of gas in the ocean. And if we can get that out and use that, we can power the entire Namibia for 150 years. When you are on your way to the coast and you pass by a town called Usakos, if you look towards your right, you see some guys standing next to the road. Who are they? What are they doing there? They are selling gemstones. Namibia is very well known and famous for gemstones. We have a lot of different types of gemstones here. And what are we going to do with the gemstones? We're going to do something to them to make them look nice. We're going to facet them like we showed you earlier with the diamonds, where we cut small little faces into the gemstone. We can tumble them a round rock like this, or we can make this shape, and this then can be put inside a ring. You can also engrave gemstones, or you can carve them like this shape here. So you can do a lot with gemstones. But the main reason why we have gemstones is because they are beautiful, and in most cases we're going to put them inside jewelry. When you walk around inside your house, did you ever notice some products or things, utensils that you use that are actually made from geological materials? I would just like to give you an example. If you go into your kitchen, can you just have a look around to see what you can see there that is made from anything that comes from the earth? Have you ever wondered what the glasses or the bottles are made of in your house? They could be made of quartz or sand. So this gets molten in a very, very hot furnace or oven. And then they make these lovely glasses, or even the bottles that you drink cool drink from. Another thing is clay. Do you guys know clay? We have quite a lot of clay in Namibia, especially in the north of our country where the Oshanas are. And this particular pot, which is an Oshikundu pot, has been made from clay. All your canned foods, did you wonder what your cans are made from? They are made from aluminium, even your aluminium foil. And then of course, the salt that you're going to put in your food. We are now in the bathroom. Ladies, you'll be shocked. Did you know that some of the makeup that you use on your face and even the nail polish could contain some geological minerals or geological products like small black rocks, shiny minerals. You know, a lot of your makeup is very shiny. So this is mica, this is one particular mineral. And this black mineral, which goes into mascara, is another type that is called rutile. So you can see all that shininess in your makeup. Comes from the shiny minerals. And what about toothpaste? Have you ever read the box? Have you ever read what's inside? One of the main ingredients is fluoride. What is fluoride? Fluoride prevents tooth decay, and it is actually a green rock, which I will show you just in a bit. You also have some creams. What do they contain? Like creams for pimples or sunscreens, they contain the mineral zinc. Mosquito spray. Did you ever wonder whether there were some rocks in here, or rocks used to make this? This is just one example, and this is the same rock, this is called fluoride, that went into your toothpaste, even into your washing powder. You get apatite, zeolite, which is another mineral. And most of the chemicals that we use contain salt. And then finally, if you look at your washing basin, even that is made sometimes from rocks and clays. In Namibia, we have been mining fluoride. Just north of the small town of Otjiwarongo, there was a mine called Okuruzo mine, and it was mining fluoride. And this is a very nice crystal fluoride. So you can see it's quite green, and you can see the square faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So imagine, where are we going to use this? In our toothpaste. Where else? In our mosquito spray. And we also use it in fertilizers. We have 2 zinc mines in the south of Namibia. One of them is called Scorpion Zinc Mine, and it produces 99.8% pure zinc. And what are we going to do with zinc at the end of the day? We are going to use it in cosmetics, in special creams, but we're also going to use it to make corrugated iron for our houses, the roofs for our houses. The Tsumeb mine is the oldest mine in Namibia. It was started in 1906, so that's before the first diamond was discovered in Namibia. And 240 different types of minerals have been found at this particular mine. It was a copper, lead, zinc, silver mine, and its ore body was a pipe-like structure that stretched all the way to 1,800 meters deep into the ground. At least 40 minerals of those 240 minerals that were discovered at the mine are unique to this particular mine. So they haven't been found anywhere else in the world. Namibia has now become one of those gold mine destinations. By now we already have 2 different gold mines in Namibia. And one of the oldest gold mines here is called the Navajo gold mine, and it is located right outside of the town of Karibib. Here, gold is found within a very hard rock called marble, and that is a bit unique because gold normally isn't found in marbles. And this particular mine was opened in 1989. Let's talk a little bit about uranium in Namibia. Uranium is another huge commodity in Namibia, and there's lots of uranium in our Namib Desert. Rossing Uranium Mine was at one point the largest uranium open pit mine in the world. And here uranium can be found in a rock called Alaskites. You can see these pink and creamy looking rocks here. And some of the end product is called yellow cake, and this other dark product called the final product. So Rossing Mine was already in operation in 1976, and it is still operational today. Let's talk about the fossils of Namibia. We're finished talking about rocks, minerals, and mines of Namibia, and now we're going to talk about the fossils. One very famous fossil in Namibia is this particular one. It was found in 1992 in the Omaruru River, and it is the skeleton, which is fossilized, of a large animal that lived 230 million years ago. It was a vicious predator. You can see from the teeth in the jaws here, very long, sharp teeth. And it was at least 5 meters long. So it was preying on other animals by hiding behind a dune or hiding behind a rock and then ambushing them. Namibia is also world famous for petrified wood. Some of the biggest petrified logs have been found at the Crocodiles petrified forest, which is a heritage site very near to Crocodiles. And here you can see some of these wood pieces. Some of these small pieces made up trees as large as 45 meters, and they were ripped up by a flash storm about 230 million years ago. Fossils can tell you a lot. Fossils can tell you something about the environment of that particular place at that particular time that the fossil was still living. It can tell you something about climate. It can just also tell you something about the diversity of animals that were living at that particular time. So about 750 million years ago, in northern and southern Namibia, there were these interesting animals. And these animals, they are actually very tiny, they are microscopic, so they can't always be seen with the naked eye. And they are called blue-green algae. It's an organism that lives in the oceans or in water, and they form these layered structures. And if these layered structures become fossilized, they are known as stromatolites. Some of the oldest stromatolites in the world are 3 billion years old, and they are linked to the oxygenation of our atmosphere. So they paved the way for the first animals to be able to colonize Earth, because they produced a lot of oxygen and emitted that into the atmosphere. So you are wondering, what are you really looking at here? These are in fact fossils of the first animals on Earth. Namibia is very well known for a type of fossil or animals known as the Ediacaran animals. And these animals lived about 565 million years ago, and they died out around 542 million years ago. So what were these animals? First of all, they were living in a big ocean, and they had different types of habits. We know that they were probably soft animals, but they had an outside hard layer, which is why they got preserved so well. So what were these animals doing in this ocean? Some of them were attached to the sea bottom, filter feeding. Some of them were slowly moving over the sea bottom, grazing on algae, and others were just passively drifting around. It is a big mystery as to how these particular animals are linked to other animals on Earth, because we think that most of these animals have gone extinct, but just a few of them might have given rise to the invertebrates like mollusks that we know today that live along the oceans. About 260 million years ago, Namibia was one of the countries attached to South America, together with South Africa, and there was a big lake spanning all the way from Brazil into Namibia, southern Namibia, as well as South Africa. In this lake, a lot of animals were living, but one very particular and unique animal from this lake is a small reptile called Mesozois. Now, Mesozois was actually used by a geologist called Alfred Wegener to support his theory that the continents were attached to each other, South America and Africa. But people thought that he was crazy. But he said, how is it possible that these two continents' edges fit exactly into each other? And how is it possible that they share the same types of fossils? And this was one of the fossils that they used as evidence for this continental drift and continental attachment theory. Now, this animal, as you can see, was a very tiny creature. It had a long tail that acted like a flipper. It had paddle-like feet, and hands with which it could swim very well. It had a tiny skull with very long teeth, and we think that this animal ate fishes. So it would grab the fish like a basket with its mouth, and then it would swallow it whole. We are going a little bit ahead in time, so we are now at about 200 million years ago. And during this time period, also known as the Triassic, Namibia actually had a lot of dinosaurs living here. This is one example of many dinosaurs that lived in Namibia. And this one was called Mesospondylus. It was a plant-eating dinosaur with a long slender neck and a long tail. And it could actually walk on its hind legs. Dinosaurs, as you know, are reptilian type of animals. But they did have slightly warm blood, and they were laying eggs like birds. So birds are descendants of dinosaurs. Some of the other evidence that we know that dinosaurs were living here includes footprints of dinosaurs. If you go to a farm called Ochianama-Perero, which is located right next to the Omaruru River, you will actually see fossilized dinosaur footprints. Our museum also has a Dinosaur Dig. This one we brought especially here for the kids. We want the kids to experience what it's like looking for dinosaur bones. So you're going to use some of these tools to look for dinosaur bones in here. And I wonder what we could possibly find. I found something. Ooh, look at this. Oh, what's this? Ah, this is a dinosaur bone. This is a leg bone. Wow. So we are still at around 230 million years ago. And there's one particular place which is near to the place where all these beautiful dinosaur footprints are, which is called Renosterkloof, or the Echo Mountain. And at this Echo Mountain, a lot of fossils were found. And some of them include mammal ancestors. These fossils are also known as cynodonts. And here you can see a tiny skull of one of these animals, and you can also see that it had some good strong teeth to crush its food with, and some very pointy sharp teeth to eat meat. So this wasn't a meat-eating little animal, and it was a mammal ancestor. Now eventually, at some point in time, South America broke away from Africa, and the beginnings of the Atlantic Ocean were forming. So some of the oldest fossils from this time period are some marine fossils, and they include this oyster. Now this oyster tells us a story about the climate of that time, but also the temperature of the water. So we're talking about a tropical climate and very warm water, because oysters love warm water. So our ocean today, the Atlantic Ocean, is very cold. It's one of the coldest oceans. But we found fossils of warm water species, all these different types of sharks along our coast. And that tells us that the early Atlantic Ocean was actually much warmer than it is today. Even this coral. Corals love warm water. So now we're jumping a little bit ahead of time. Why are we jumping ahead of time? We are jumping ahead of time because you don't always find fossils in all the rocks that you look at, right? So some of the age or time periods we haven't actually found fossils. But in Namibia, one of the places where a lot of fossils have been found is in the south, where they were mining diamonds. And I'm going to show you a lot of fossils now that we found thanks to diamond mining. So here are just some examples of fossils from there. And they are these little wiggly structures and structures like that. And they are fossilized traces. Fossilized traces of resting chambers of geckos and lizards or spiders. They are also the fossilized roots of some plants. Here again, you have a fossilized root of a plant. We also have fossilized termite gardens. So we're talking about 10 million years ago with these ones. We also have the fossilized eggs of an ostrich ancestor. This is one of these eggs. This is a real fossil, but it's still breakable, so it's still fragile, and you have to handle it with care. But this egg looks quite different from a modern ostrich egg. Can you tell the difference? This one looks much more round, and this one has an oval shape. And the pores on this egg are very tiny, while the pores on this one are clustered together and they are very big. So what else was living in Namibia around this time period? We had giant ostriches, we had the ancestors of springbuck and giraffes. We also had rhinos living in the south of Namibia about 17 million years ago. And this is the jaw of a rhino, a really old rhino from 17 million years ago. We also had crocodiles living in the Orange River. Look at this. And we found a lot of teeth, fossilized teeth of crocodiles. And then we also had 5 different species of elephants. So some of these elephants' jaws and skulls were found at the Orange River. I can't pick up that jaw, that's too heavy for me, but I'll show you a nice tooth of one of these elephants. So that's a cheek tooth of one of these elephants. You can see the little cusplets. And these teeth can also tell us a story about these elephants. They tell us that these elephants actually liked or preferred eating leaves. Not like the elephants, for example, at the Etosha that love eating grass. Now we have a world famous fossil, which is the fossil of a tiny ape. It's one of the oldest apes ever discovered south of the equator. And it's called Otavipithecus namibiensis. It was discovered in the Otavi mountainland, and unfortunately, we only found the little jaw and some finger bones. But only having a jaw and some teeth and a few finger bones can already tell us a lot about this fossil. What can we learn from this? We can learn what type of food this ape ate. For example, this ape liked eating soft berries and leaves. The fingers of the ape also tell us that it loved climbing trees, that it was a good tree climber. And together with that little ape, we also found the crushed skull of a leopard and the crushed skull of a baboon, a small baboon. One of the most recently discovered fossil sites is the fossil site at Etosha National Park. It was discovered by a student who was doing his PhD on sediments in the park, and he dug a deep trench. While he was looking at the soil, he found some horns. When he found these horns, he thought, oh, that's nothing. But when he touched them and he lifted them out of the pit, he was like, these horns are really heavy. And he realized that he was dealing with fossilized horns. Now these horns were of a reedbuck. And reedbucks don't live in the Etosha today. They need a lot of water. So together with these horns, a lot of other fossils have been found in subsequent years. Other horns, bones of other animals, which include rhino, warthog, and even catfishes and crocodiles as well. So this tells us that 5 million years ago, there was standing water in the pan. We've come to the final bit in our geological history. And that is the time period when we, human beings, start coming in. It's the last 10%. So when did humans actually evolve? And from which type of creature did we evolve? Now, a lot of people find this very hard to believe, but there is a lot of evidence in science that we have actually evolved from large apes. And we are a type of ape that with time became more and more intelligent. So when did this all happen? The first human that we can call a human evolved around 7 million years ago. So that's a long time ago. But then around 2.7 million, we started developing stone tools. I just want to give you some idea of some of the stone tools. These are some of the oldest stone tools that have been found. This is a little hammer stone, and this is like a spear tip. And the first tools were actually developed 2.7 million years ago, and for obvious reasons. What are we gonna do with these stone tools? We're gonna cut our meat, we're gonna scrape our animal skins to clean them nicely. We're gonna do stuff with these tools. And over time, as we became more intelligent, we started developing smaller, more sophisticated tools like this one. This one looks like a cutting tool or a scraping tool, so it has a very sharp edge here. And our ancestors started identifying which rocks were best suitable to make some of these stone tools. Unfortunately, we haven't really found a lot of human ancestors. I've just told you about Otavipithecus, but another human ancestor that was found in Namibia is this Orange River Man. But the only part of Orange River Man we found, and you guessed right, we found it in the Orange River, was just the top part of the skull. So this is the skull cap. But when we turn it around, and this is just a replica, so this is not the real one. The real one is kept in a safe. We can see actually here the veins of the brain. The veins of the brain. So, do you want to guess how old this human skull cap is? It's about 100,000 years old. So it's not very old, but we are right at the end of the geological history. And because we have all these things that we've been looking at, all these minerals, all these rocks that we are mining to make things from, it is very important that we do sustainable mining. And I would like to end you with that thought. So behind the scenes at this particular museum, we are also curating everything that we've collected. Sometimes we get donations, and then we also curate that and put it into storage cabinets. So how do we go about doing that? So sometimes we have to go to the field to discover new fossil sites, and when we discover new fossil sites, we collect some fossils that we find there. So these are just a few shell pieces from a tortoise that have been collected. Then we bring everything back here to the museum in this back room, and we are going to catalog this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to say, what is this? From where is it? Who collected it? And yes, the age of it, if we know the age as well. So this one already has a little number on it, so we need to give it a number. Each piece gets a number, and we're just going to do it like this. Take some Tipex, then we take a small portion of the fossil, which is not that important, and we put a little line there. When this line is dry, we are gonna write our little label on it, a little code, a little number with some letters. And this code has a meaning. It tells you when the fossil was collected and possibly where as well. So then after that, we are now going to make a label, and we're going to have a box. So we're going to make a label. We're going to put the number there. So we're going to say what it is. It's a tortoise shell. From where is it? Sperrgebied, that is in the south of Namibia. And we can also say when it was collected and by whom. So we can say collected in 1912, according to this label. Collected by whom? By a Dr. Samuels. And then we're going to put this in the box. And you're going to put all your labeled pieces into the box. And then you're going to store it away into the right drawer. So we have to look at where are our tortoises. So here we have some tortoises. We're going to put it in here. And just to give you an indication of what some of these drawers look like inside, here you have a lot of hyrax, rock dassies, the jaws of rock dassies. Here again, this drawer only has 2 pieces in it. But here this drawer has quite a number of bones in it. All with little labels on it, a little code. And all of this information gets inputted on a computer as well onto our database, so that if anyone wants to know what we have, like a researcher, they just go onto our database or onto my computer and they can immediately see what is available if they want to study a certain animal from a certain place.